Imagine running for your life in the dead of night. No map, no supplies, just the cold wind biting at your skin and the stars above as your only guide. Every step you take is a risk. Behind you, the relentless threat of capture, chains, beatings, or worse. Ahead, an uncertain path shrouded in darkness. Would you dare to keep going? For Harriet Tubman, hesitation was not an option. In a single moment of courage, she chose the unknown over a lifetime of bondage. That choice would not only alter her fate, it would shape the course of history itself. History is filled with forgotten stories, tales of resilience, bravery, and the human spirit's unbreakable will. At the Forgotten History channel, we bring these stories back to life, uncovering the struggles and triumphs that shaped our world. If you love history that goes beyond the textbooks, subscribe now and become part of a community dedicated to remembering the past. Now let's dive into the extraordinary journey of Harriet Tubman's escape to freedom. Harriet Tubman was born into slavery around 1822 in Dorchester County, Maryland. She was just a child when she learned the cruel reality of bondage, long days under the scorching sun, calloused hands from picking cotton, and the ever-present fear of the whip. From an early age, she endured relentless physical and emotional abuse. Forced to labor beyond her strength, she was beaten for the smallest mistakes. Some scars would fade, but others, like the deep wound on her head from a weight thrown at her, would mark her for life. But even as her body suffered, her spirit remained unbroken. Each night, when the work was done, Harriet would listen to the whispered stories of elders, tales of Africa, of ancestors who once roamed free, and of a land beyond the fields where no one owned another person. In those moments, a seed was planted. She carried a dream, one she would one day chase with everything she had. As Harriet Tubman grew older, so did her longing for freedom. She had seen too much. Family members ripped away, sold like cattle, their cries swallowed by the indifference of slave traders. She had felt too much, whiplashes across her back, the sting of salt rubbed into fresh wounds, the exhaustion of endless labor with no hope of rest. Then came the breaking point, another brutal beating, another loved one taken, and Harriet knew staying meant death. Escape was her only chance at life. The risk was immense. If caught, she would be dragged back in chains, beaten, or worse. But the thought of a life unchained burned brighter than her fear. Harriet listened carefully to whispered advice in the dead of night, how to avoid patrols, where to find safe houses, which paths led north. She studied the land, memorizing rivers and roads, learning the language of the wind and the movement of the trees. But above all else, she placed her faith in a single unwavering guide, the North Star. The night was silent, save for the rustling of leaves and the distant howls of animals in the dark. Under the cover of darkness, Harriet took her first steps toward freedom. There was no turning back now. She moved quickly but carefully, her breath steady, despite the fear clawing at her chest. Every step was a gamble. The path ahead was not a road, but an unforgiving wilderness. Swamps thick with mosquitoes that swarmed her skin, dense forests where every snapping twig could betray her, and open fields where the moonlight turned every shadow into a lurking bounty hunter. There was no food, no water, only the unshakable belief that each painful step brought her closer to a life beyond chains. Slave catchers prowled the roads, and the reward for her capture grew higher with each passing day. But there was one thing they could never take from her, her unbreakable spirit. The air smelled different. The streets sounded different. The moment Harriet stepped across the invisible line separating slavery from freedom, she felt the weight of her past loosen, but not disappear. Weeks of fear, exhaustion, and near capture had led her here to the city of Philadelphia, a stronghold of abolitionist activity and a beacon of hope for those who had made the perilous journey north. For the first time she was free, no overseer, no chains, no fear of being sold. She could walk the streets without looking over her shoulder, speak without whispering, breathe without the crushing weight of oppression. But even in this moment of triumph, something stirred deep within her. Freedom was not just a destination, it was a responsibility. If she could escape, others could too. And Harriet Tubman would not rest until they did. Her journey was not over. In fact, it had only just begun. Harriet Tubman's escape was only the beginning. Freedom was never meant to be hers alone. Time and time again, she returned to the South, slipping past slave catchers, outwitting those who sought to stop her, and leading her people through treacherous landscapes to the promise of freedom. She became a legend, known as the Moses of her people. She led over 70 enslaved individuals to freedom, yet her fight didn't end there. During the Civil War, she worked as a spy, scout, and nurse for the Union Army, continuing to battle against the very system that had sought to break her. Her story is one of unimaginable courage, resilience, and an unyielding belief that every person deserves to be free. Harriet Tubman's name echoes through history as a symbol of defiance, hope, and freedom. And her legacy reminds us that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let it stand in the way of what is right. If you found Harriet Tubman's journey inspiring, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more forgotten history brought back to life. Your support helps us continue telling these incredible stories. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.